Welcome to beautiful Comerica Park in Detroit. The Blue Jays are in Detroit to take on the Tigers for a 3-game series, coming off an 8-2 homestand. The Blue Jays are the third best hitting ball club in the American League, and they are the best home run hitting ball club in baseball. Let's take a look at their lineup. It's Jose Reyes, top of the order. Melky Cabrera against Anibal Sanchez, the starter for the Tigers tonight, has gone 10 for 18, all singles, but that's quite a run against one pitcher. And then Jose Bautista. He's been on a run himself, an 8-game hit streak. He's hit .444 during that 8-gamer with 2 homers and 8 RBIs. They are set to take on the red-hot Anibal Sanchez of the Tigers.
The 30-year-old right-hander's making his 9th start of the season. Since coming back from the disabled list May 18th, he's made 3 starts, posting a 2-0 record with a 1.7 ERA. He struck out 17 in that span.
Sanchez originally signed with the Red Sox, and he came here in a big trade a couple of years ago from the Miami Marlins. He solidified their rotation, and he is no slouch. Everybody looks at Verlander, everybody talks about Max Scherzer. Sanchez can match them pitch for pitch.
He's been the most consistent one of the bunch, really, right now.
Jose Reyes steps in, and Sanchez is set. Here's the first pitch of the ball game. It's taken outside for a ball, and we are underway. Reyes at .250 for the season. Ball 2. Joe, how challenging are the shadows right now at Comerica?
This is a very difficult time in the early evening here when the back stretch is all bright behind your pitcher in center field, but the infield is shaded. That ball is going to go through 2 different shades there, and it's very difficult because it's bright, but then the ball is actually in the darkness. Very difficult to pick up the baseball.
2 balls and a strike to Reyes. Fouls it back. It's even now, 2-2. Sanchez, for his career against the Blue Jays, he's 2-2 with a 5.48 ERA. We mentioned he has not allowed a home run this season. Reyes chased that high pitch. Sanchez is the only big league starter who has started at least 5 games this season and not allowed a home run.
And this will be an interesting matchup against the Toronto Blue Jays with their home run capabilities leading the American League.
Full count. You saw Melky Cabrera standing on deck, and he knows Sanchez well. Melky was out taking early batting practice this afternoon. Pulled foul outside of first. It is a beautiful night here in Detroit, 26 degrees. Blue Jays always attract a large crowd here at Comerica. A lot of Blue Jay fans in southern Ontario come across the border. Come from your hometown, Joe.
The Windsorites are out tonight.
Full count. There's a fly ball to right. Torrey Hunter coming in. Former Gold Glover makes the catch. 1 down. Let's check out the defense for the Tigers behind Sanchez. J.D. Martinez is in left field. Austin Jackson in center. 9-time Gold Glover Torrey Hunter is in right. Don Kelly gets to start at third. Andrew Romine, up the middle with Ian Kinsler. Miguel Cabrera at first base, and Alex Avila is behind the plate for Sanchez.
J.D. Ramirez gets the start in left field tonight in the place of former Blue Jay Rajai Davis. I'm sure we'll see Rajai here before the series is out.
Melky Cabrera takes it outside. We mentioned Cabrera against Sanchez, 10 for 18. All 10 of those hits have been singles. Well, the Blue Jays continue to do what they've done all year long. They make pitchers throw strikes.
They will make them work, and this will be a very good test for them tonight with the way Anibal Sanchez has been throwing the ball of late since he returned from the disabled list.
Kevin Seitzer knows he's going to see some good hitters in this series. 4 of the top 10 hitters in the American League are in this series. Victor Martinez, Miguel Cabrera, Bautista, and Melky Cabrera. They're all in the top 10 in batting average. Jose Bautista thought it was strike 3. Melky said, give me one more. Now it's a full count. Is he that anxious to hit?
Melky's going to say it's tough enough to hit this guy. At least give me 3 strikes to try.
There's an off-speed pitch, and Melky strikes out. Well, we talk about the great 4 hitters in the ball game tonight, and we thought it would be interesting if you looked at the 2 respective pairs of hitters, and they are among the best in baseball.
And there's a lot of accolades here in Detroit with the combination of Miguel Cabrera and Victor Martinez, but look at the production of Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion this year for the Blue Jays. 33 home runs between them.
Bautista now with 2 outs. Takes the first pitch strike. Mentioned Jose has an 8-game hit streak. Great numbers across the board. 311, 14 homers, and 40 RBIs. Boy, when you look at the leaderboards in all the offensive categories, it's Encarnacion, it's Miguel Cabrera, Jose Bautista, Melky, and Victor Martinez. They're in all of the major categories.
These guys are just complete hitters, and to see Victor Martinez too really creeping up there to see the home runs this year. He at one time had more home runs than strikeouts.
Off speed pitch, big hop that's short. Andrew Romine across the diamond. Easy inning for Anibal Sanchez. 3 up, 3 down. Has a pretty good veteran lineup to feature every single night. Take a look at the Tigers lineup. Top of the order, Ian Kinsler, newcomer coming from the Texas Rangers, has given them an element of speed at the top of the order. Miguel Cabrera, he leads the American League batting with runners in scoring position with a .418 average, driven in 37 runs. And down in the 7th spot, it's Austin Jackson, who's put up good numbers against the Blue Jays. And it is a welcome sight for Jackson, who's been scuffling lately with the bat. They are set to take on Drew Hutchison, who makes his first career start against the Tigers.
Well, the 23-year-old Hutchison's making his 12th start of the season. Last time out against Tampa Bay, he got the win despite only going 5 innings and giving up 5 earned runs, 3 home runs. Not a real good outing for Drew, but he snuck a W out of it. He's pitching on a couple of extra days rest here, so we'll see how that serves him, if it serves him well against this Tigers lineup.
And keep an eye on Hutchison early to see the velocity and make note of his location. You mentioned the 3 home runs against Tampa Bay. That was a real red flag. There's the first pitch to Ian Kinsler, who's always anxious to swing it. Kinsler, in his first season with the Detroit Tigers, he was acquired in that Prince Fielder trade with the Rangers. And he gives them a leadoff man, something they haven't had for a while.
Yeah, with some speed at the top of the lineup. They've had a lineup really quite slow, a bunch of boppers, you know, they're going station to station kind of team, and now they've changed that look a little bit with Kinsler at the top with his speed.
Check swing foul off the catcher. 0-2. Drew Hutchison is getting that extra day start, as we mentioned, and there was some concern Hutchison Had Tommy John surgery in 2012. Didn't start pitching in the minor leagues last year until July 14. So he was on a pace to throw 195 innings, probably too steep. Strike 3 according to the first base umpire Jim Wolf. He rings up Ian Kinsler, 1 down. Blue Jays defensively have improved dramatically from last year to this. Cabrera, Gose, and Bautista in the outfield. This is a good field for Anthony Gose. Francisco's at third, Reyes and Laurie up the middle, and Encarnacion has become a very good first baseman. And Deanna Navarro will flash the signs for Hutchison.
Well, we've seen Anthony Gose cover a lot of real estate out in center field, and he'll be challenged tonight at a vast Comerica Park outfield.
Lots of room to cover for Anthony Gose, and he's got the tools to do it. Torrey Hunter behind quickly, 0-2.
Talk about Drew Hutchison and his fastball, and the velocities had come down in his last number of starts. With that, also notice the command. Drew takes a lot of pride in commanding the strike zone and hitting his spots. See him come inside right here.
Didn't get it inside, and it's a fly ball to right. Bautista calls for it. Hunter's retired, 2 outs.
Sometimes pitchers get away with pitches, and that's not where he wanted to put that pitch. Hunter popped it up to right field, and he got away with it, but that's something I think that goes along with his velocities is the command of the strike zone. He's usually very good at hitting his spots. We'll see if he improves on that tonight with the extra rest.
Well, this is exactly how you want to face Miguel Cabrera. 2 outs and nobody on. One of the best hitters we've ever seen.
Well, one of the best hitters and probably the best opposite field power probably to ever play the game.
Makes the first pitch strike. Remember, the Tigers are seeing Hutchison for the first time, so they want to get a first-hand look at what he's featuring.
I'm sure with that little squint by Cabrera right there, just as we talked about with that sun shining out in the outfield. But as a hitter and a pitcher in the shadows of the infield, it's just those 2 different shades, very difficult to pick up the baseball.
Cabrera chases that high fastball. This is a challenge for Drew Hutchison as well as he looks in for the sign. That sun is shining right in his eyes, and that's got to be very unsettling with Miguel Cabrera hitting that ball toward you. 0-2, 2 outs. Cabrera shoots it into the seats.
See Deanna Navarro calling for that fastball up in the zone. Drew has to make sure he elevates that baseball. Cabrera hit an 0-2 pitch up in the zone the other night in Seattle. He hit it in the left field seat. So if you're going to elevate it, you better get it up there.
Throwing that slider, and Cabrera watched it off the plate outside.
Drew likes to pitch inside. I know Deanna Navarro, they've talked about it. This is a perfect situation. After elevating a fastball, going down and away with the slider, if you can set up Miguel Cabrera, this is the time to come inside.
Bounce that slider in the dirt. With every pitch, Cabrera is getting more and more information. He knows a little bit more about Hutchison. And now Miguel Cabrera, look at him. He's kind of looking back at the mound. Maybe he's looking at where Laurie is. Look at Brett. He is 20 feet on the grass, straight away into center. Miguel Cabrera inside out swing, and he's going to pop that one into the seats off the warning track.
That's the pitch right there. Drew Hutchison's coming in with that 94-mile-per-hour fastball, so note the velocity and the location. He didn't quite get it in there as much as he wanted to, but he got it in there enough to jam Cabrera. He fought it off, fouling it down the right field line.
Cabrera's talking to Navarro about Laurie. He said, "You can't play me up there. There's a big hole over there. I can hit it right through there."
So what is this, softball? It's a rover.
Lays off that high pitch. A 7-pitch at bat. Now Cabrera's got plenty of information.
It's not a guy that you want to give information to either.
Pretty good hitter on deck in Victor Martinez. He leads the American League in hitting. There's Laurie positioned perfectly. Great job by Brett Laurie. Easy inning for Drew Hutchison. We're scoreless after 1. for the Blue Jays. He was named today the American League Player of the Month. And why not? 16 home runs, 33 RBIs, 22 extra bases, and an OPS of 1.132. It's hard to imagine that he wouldn't win it, Joe. He had a terrific month of May.
It's a pretty good season, isn't it? Edwin was just unbelievable, and that's after a very slow April when he really struggled. We saw him chasing a lot of bad pitches. Just really had a tough time finding it, that rhythm, that timing. And Edwin will tell you, it's not something that he just magically did when the calendar turned over to May. He just felt that timing came, and when that comes as a hitter, especially if you're Edwin, things come together.
And then he hit his 19th home run on the first day of June. First player that has led the league in home runs in May and then homered on the first day of June since September 2001 when Sammy Sosa did it. Sanchez ahead with a first pitch strike. What do the Blue Jays have to look for from Anibal Sanchez?
And they're looking for something over the middle of the plate, but it doesn't seem like they're going to get a whole lot. He throws any pitch in any count, and he really pitches backwards, but he'll throw a changeup that might be 89, but then he'll pull back and throw one about 80. So it's very difficult to set on anything.
Challenging pitchers are the ones that'll pitch without establishing any sorts of patterns.
No patterns, and especially the way he changes speeds of all his pitches. It's one thing if you have a pitcher that throws a fastball at 93 and his slider is 87 and his changeup is 80, and he may change locations and mix it up, but Anibal changes the speeds of all of his pitches, and then you change locations as well. It's a lot to cover.
Ground ball to short. Andrew Romine. Garnacion is retired. Well, let's look at those combination of pitches that he will throw, and he can mix it up very effectively.
You see, he only throws the fastball under 50% of the time with the slider, the changeup, and the occasional curveball. But even if you look at just the changeup alone, he'll change speeds with it. The slider as well. So when you're changing speeds with those 4 pitches, it can turn into 8 pitches. So it's a lot for hitters to look for a pitch in a certain location and get it.
This is exactly what the information the hitters want when they're facing Sanchez. What percentage of pitches should I look for? And Kevin Seitzer is the one that prepares all of that for them. Adam Lynn takes another first pitch. Had a good rip at that pitch and fouls it back. Kevin Seitzer does a great job of putting together a scouting report to give his hitters, and he keeps it very simple. Just tells them what to expect and the percentages of pitches that you might see in a given at bat.
If the hitting coach can provide that information, percentages, and when he throws pitches, what counts he likes to throw them in, you can look for something.
This is an interesting defensive alignment. Kinsler is straight away at second. That's the third baseman, Don Kelly, in right. Much the way the Blue Jays use Brett Lawrie. Now it's 3-1.
The location of Avila still working middle away.
Adam Lynn has been wearing out right-handed pitching, and they throw most of the pitches down and away, but he has seemed to be able to get to those pitches lately.
And Adam Lynn's made some great adjustments. You see where they pitch him is down and away. The shift is still on, but Adam Lynn has made adjustments to his swing that he will go with those balls. We have seen him go to left center quite a bit this year.
Pops this one up into center field. Jackson over in the alley a bit. 2 quick outs here in the second.
Blue Jays on Sportsnet. Brought to you by the 2014 Honda CR-V. Honda, proud to be the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays. And by Home Hardware. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Comerica Park opened up in 2000. And it is one of the real gems of baseball stadiums. Brett Lawrie takes a strike. Lawrie 4 for 6 against Anibal Sanchez. Boy, like any pitcher that is on a hot streak, Sanchez is not messing around. He's coming right at you.
Gets the ball and he goes with it.
That looked like a changeup with that good sinking action.
And that's the thing too. Some of his pitches between the slider and the changeup, you can't necessarily tell what they are all the time because those velocities do change so much.
A ball and 2 strikes to Brent Laurie. Fly ball to left field. J.D. Martinez camps under it. 3 up, 3 down, 6 straight retired by Sanchez. We'll go to the bottom of the second. Park. It's a RoboCop day, and he came out to throw out the first pitch. I don't think he used his real RoboCop's powers to throw that pitch. I know he can throw it harder than that, Joe.
I think he needs a pitching coach and he needs to work on his flexibility.
Looked a little stiff with that delivery as he was trying to get that fastball to the zone. It is a gorgeous night in Detroit. Tigers home after a 4-3 road trip. Detroit has gone through a little bit of a rough patch of late. 17-12 in the month of May. Victor Martinez hasn't had any rough patches lately, batting .335 atop the American League in batting average. As Joe mentioned, he has 13 home runs. He's struck out 13 times. And he is the best 2-strike hitter in the American League. Doesn't make any difference. He loves to hit with 2 strikes. Goes after that low fastball.
And that's that protection that is served for Miguel Cabrera that he dearly missed the year Victor was hurt 2 years ago, and he came back last year. But to have a hitter like Victor Martinez behind Miguel, we talked about the 3-4 punch that they provide, much like Jose and Edwin on the Blue Jays side, and you have to have your stars carry you, and that's what both teams have, a 3-4 punch that do that in their lineups.
.350 average with 2 strikes. It's 1-2 now. Hutchison tried to catch that outside corner with that slider. Victor missed the entire 2012 season with knee surgery, and that really forced the Tigers into the Prince Fielder contract. Unsigned fielder until they found out Martinez wasn't going to be able to go.
Yeah, that was late January, I believe, that Prince finally came aboard in Detroit. It was quite a shocking signing, to say the least, especially for the dollar values and the years that were involved. 9-year contract.
Victor Martinez is now 35 years old. Spent 8 years with the Cleveland Indians. drills this to right. That's a foul ball.
Well, Hutchison's basically a three-pitch pitcher: fastball, slider, changeup. You see the fastball around 66% of the time. He will use the slider and then the changeup, but the fastball is key for him because he's aggressive with it. He likes to see his fastball percentage up there. He doesn't want to see it down by 50-55. Stay aggressive with the fastball, mix in the other pitches, but one thing he does, he takes a lot of pride in his command, and especially when he comes in, whether it's a right-hander or a left-hander.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Victor Martinez. He is leading off the second. No score in the ball game. Gets that ball inside, and Martinez gets to it. Bautista plays it off the wall. He'll hold Martinez to a long single. Boy, what a pitch. Pretty good pitch, but Martinez got to it and hit it hard.
And there's a reason why you hit like he does with 2 strikes. Not a bad pitch at all by Hutchison. See Deandre Navarro set up in there, got it on the inner third, but you just shouldn't be that good a hitter with 2 strikes. But Victor covers it all, and that explains his numbers right there. Nice job by Jose Bautista playing that ball off the wall, knowing the speed of Martinez and holding him to a single.
Martinez is a 4-time All-Star. He's driven in 100 runs 4 times. He is a terrific hitter. J.D. Martinez, just 26 years old. Came from the Houston Astros. He takes a first pitch strike. Drew Hutchison working out of the stretch for the first time this evening. The fastball missed downstairs. It's 1-1. The one thing you hope doesn't happen is that Hutchison gets caught up in velocity. He's heard so much talk about the drop in velocity. You don't want him thinking about velocity. You want him thinking about executing good pitches.
Yeah, and we all talk velocity a lot in this game of baseball, but all we need to do is look at Mark Burley. That'll tell us in a nutshell how much velocity means. But when you see the velocity go down that we saw from Hutchison these last 5 starts, it does raise a red flag for the Blue Jays, and it's a little bit of a cause for concern. So you want to make sure that health is number one, especially after Tommy John surgery in 2012 and not pitching a lot last year.
Martinez didn't want to, and he strikes out. Tried to check his swing, went around. Second strikeout of the night.
Blue Jays on Sportsnet. Brought to you by the 2014 Honda CR-V. Honda, proud to be the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Don Kelly, the third baseman, takes strike 1. Boy, Kelly's been a valuable member of this Tiger team for a long time.
You know, Jim Leyland was a huge fan of Don Kelly, and he just played all the roles. He'll play anywhere on the field. He'll be a decent bat, but the key is he's got some pop in that bat. He's had some big hits in their playoff runs.
Had a game-winning sacrifice fly against Oakland in the division series, and then hit a go-ahead home run against Ivan Nova in Game 5, first inning. He's had some big hits.
Yeah, he has, and if you're going to take him as your 23rd, 24th, 25th man on your roster, most managers will jump at that.
There goes the runner. The hit and run was on, and Kelly fouls it into the seats. Victor Martinez was off on the pitch trying to catch the Blue Jays by surprise playing hit and run.
Talk about those shadows too. We'll see how the hitters are reacting as we get later in the game here. See if there is a difference. Those shadows go away.
There's a base hit to left field for Kelly, just beyond the reach of Juan Francisco. So first and second with one out. Kelly's aboard. Martinez goes to second.
Well, this is where Drew's trying to get that ball elevated. You see Deanna Navarro's glove up, but he doesn't get it up there, and he doesn't get it out there. Too good a pitch in a 1-2 count. John Kelly gets the barrel to it and drills it into left field.
Austin Jackson had a tough road trip, just 2 for 24 on the most recent road trip. We mentioned Jackson has big numbers against the Blue Jays for his career, a .381 career average.
And we saw his struggles throughout the playoffs when Jim Leyland dropped him down in the order during the playoffs. And he seemed to find a home down there, had some success, and with the addition of Ian Kinsler at the top of the lineup, Jackson can stay down there.
Another pitch elevated, and Hutchinson's going to have to get that ball down a little bit.
And it's especially at 90 miles per hour, you can hit a ball that's elevated in the zone. If he can get that up to about 94, that's the pitch that's tough to get to, just above the belt.
Took a shot at that quarter down and away. 2-1. Tigers have 2 hits. The Blue Jays have yet to reach base against Anibal Sanchez. There's a good slider.
A good slider is going to be a late breaking sharp slider. Looks like a fastball all the way. The same rotation because it's so tight, and then you get a late break as the hitter attacks the baseball.
The ball is hit hard into center field. Anthony Ghost comes over and makes the catch.
That slider not so good. We saw the previous pitch with good sharp break. That one just spun and stayed in the middle of the plate. And Drew knows that. You can see the reaction on his face. He will show his emotion out there a little bit. He'll kick the dirt. He'll grimace on his face when he does not execute a pitch. And you know that's not where he wanted that pitch. He got away with one there.
It's okay for the pitcher to kick the dirt, but when the manager starts to kick the dirt, then you know you're in trouble.
Might be on the way to the showers.
2 down. Runners at first and second. Alex Avila, we mentioned Jackson's struggle. Avila's had the similar struggles of late. 1 for his last 17. 0 for 6 in the series against Seattle. Late on that first pitch.
First at bat for Avila. First swing, first pitch you saw, but that's right there. That's the kind of swing that you see, and you wonder if those shadows are playing a factor, because it's certainly difficult to pick up the baseball.
There's a lot of contrast out there for hitters now, and those are the numbers we're talking about. Last 9 games, Avila hitting under 100. Are you concerned about the elevation of these pitches?
Yeah, to me, the first concern you have with a pitcher is, especially a pitcher like Drew that usually works down in the zone very well. First is velocity, but anytime you see the ball elevated, usually it happens later in the game when a pitcher begins to fatigue.
Ball on a strike to the Tigers catcher.
We've seen him miss some spots already. We've seen him get away with a couple of pitches. He may be doing that right now, but he's going to have to get back down in the zone to have success against this lineup, because as the game progresses, these guys will square you up.
Pete Walker, the pitching coach, looking at some of his notes. Pull that ball off the plate way inside. Now 3-1. The thing is, you have to remind yourself of, this is the 23rd Major League start for Drew Hutchison.
He is a young cookie.
Andrew Romine is on deck, shortstop. Tigers threatening here in their half of the second. A good change up there on 3-1.
excellent changeup, and you know Avila is sitting fastball right there in a hitter's count. And a good changeup will do that too. Very deceptive because it looks like a fastball coming in. Avila commits to it. You saw that good downward action on the changeup by Hutchison.
Runners will be off on the pitch. Victor Martinez from second. Don Kelly from first. Romine on deck. There go the runners. Ground ball. Hutchison has to go to the bag. They've got time, and Hutchison gets out of the inning. No runs, 2 hits, a couple of left. We'll go to the third. Still scoreless in Detroit. Bautista comes in and gets right in his face. And I've got to believe this is a little bit of, hey, you're the man. Let's go. Pitch aggressively. Give him a little tap on the shoulder and says, come on, we believe in you. Let's go.
Yeah,
turn it loose.
That's good to see Drew Hutchison receiving that kind of accolade from a Jose Bautista, because Drew has earned that with the way he pitched all through spring training to earn a spot in this rotation, and then for the first couple months of the season. Jose's saying, get out there, be aggressive, because he's really trying to get him through this as well. This is probably a bit of a mental hurdle as well. Drew knows he was held back because the velocities are down. Jose's encouraging him to get out there.
Sometimes you figure if I'm careful, I might be able to get through 5 or 6 innings. That's not the case. You have to be aggressive and attack the zone. Here's a guy that can attack Juan Francisco. He's never seen a fastball he doesn't like. 9 homers, 24 RBIs for Francisco. This is going to drop and get out into the outfield and go all the way to the wall. Austin Jackson plays it off the wall. Francisco will check in at second. Leadoff double. He can do some damage against right-handed pitching.
Wow. Has Francisco ever taken advantage of this wonderful platoon? You see Adam Lind has as well, but they're seeing a lot of right-handers sitting against the lefties, but really benefiting from the platoon that John Gibbons has employed, facing the right-handed pitching. See Austin Jackson off to the right field side of center there, but it was a fastball out over the plate. Juan stayed with that and drilled that ball. He went all the way to the wall.
18 extra base hits and 113 at bats. That's doing some damage, and that results in that great OPS. Yonder Navarro's got to move the runner. Blue Jays have been terrific at having team at bats.
They have, and that's what Anibal Sanchez here is going to try not to let him do that. But Deonner's really going to have to try to get a pitch first of all, or regardless of where it is, try to hook a ball to the right side to get Francisco over to third with less than 2 outs.
Sanchez trying to neutralize that approach. Don't you love the good chess match between a guy that can command the zone and a guy that's got an agenda?
Sure is, and you can see the movement on that ball by Sanchez as well. He's not going to make this easy for Deonner at all.
that great changeup. Navarro didn't recognize it until it was too late.
Well, he didn't. And again, a fastball count with the 2-0 count. You're looking fastball. He knows that he might not necessarily get it. But that, to me, again, is the result of our environment right there. You see that all the bright background in center field. Very difficult to pick up the ball, especially on an off-speed pitch.
Oh, this is going to be foul outside of first. It's really hard to imagine for somebody that hasn't experienced how challenging this background is. We go back to Sunday. Navarro facing Jeremy Guthrie.
And Guthrie left that breaking ball up in the zone and also on the inner half. And that's just a bad combination. Left-handed batter Diano skied that ball, and he got just enough of it to get into that Royals bullpen.
That was the first run of the ball game and the 13th home run that Jeremy Guthrie had allowed this season. There's a ground ball. Cabrera is going to go across the diamond and get Francisco. What a heads-up play by Miguel Cabrera. Of course, he's a former third baseman. He's also playing in the outfield. He's got some arm strength, and he made a heads-up play.
Miguel Cabrera is a baseball player. You just do not see this play made at the major league level, but Miguel knows his base runner first of all. He knows the speed of the ball that was hit to him. That combination, he knew that he could make a throw over to third base. See the tag put on by Don Kelly. That's just an excellent, excellent play by Miguel Cabrera.
Well, Cabrera wipes out a runner in scoring position. Anthony Ghost fouls back the first pitch. One out now with Diano Navarro at first base. He's there on the fielder's choice. It goes 3-5. Something you don't see all the time.
Don't put that in our books too often, do we? Real good at bat by Navarro too, doing his job by hitting the ball to the right side. He just hit it too hard. He'd have been better off dribbling one over there.
That ball right on the inside corner. Anthony is 0 for his last 7. Trying to snap that streak. He is behind Sanchez 1-2. There's that slow changeup. He'll just really lob it in there. 67 miles an hour.
That's the slowest one we've seen yet.
Got to have a lot of confidence in your ability to throw something up there like that.
And you know, I'll guarantee you he does that to set up this pitch right here. And let's see if he goes hard here.
Hard cutter inside. He strikes out Anthony Ghost. 2 down. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Justin Masterson was masterful yesterday against the Red Sox as they snapped the Red Sox 7-game winning streak. Chisenhall had a big hit in that game last night.
Masterson has been masterful for a while, really throwing the ball well.
Walked himself into a bases loaded situation in the first and then struck out Johnny Gomes, and the Red Sox never really mounted another threat.
That's the type of pitcher when he's going good. If he gives you that opportunity, if the door's open, you have to take it.
Jose Reyes takes ball 1. Now it's 2-0. The Blue Jay hitters, which we mentioned, they've been so patient. Reyes over his last 15 games has hit .313, and that's why he's gotten his average up to around .250.
That patience at the plate will usually buy you a good pitch to hit throughout your at bat.
Kevin Seitzer always encouraging his hitters, and Reyes had to laugh at that last swing. He thought he was right on it and hit it off the screen in front of the Tigers dugout.
We've seen a few 9-1-1 hacks here against Sanchez early on.
We mentioned the challenges for hitters to pick up the baseball, and when you don't have a contrasting background where it's dark out in center field, you really have trouble. You don't see the contrast of the baseball against the background, and with that you can't see the spin of the seams, and it's difficult to hit. Strike 3 call. Reyes is down on strikes. 2 strikeouts in the inning, 3 in the ball game. Drew Hutchison will go back to the mound for the bottom of the 3rd. And the Blue Jays players, coaches, and alumni participated in the 19th annual Jays Care Golf Tournament at the club at Bond Head. There was over $700,000 raised by Jays Care Foundation. Funds raised for the tournament will be used to help break barriers and provide access to sports for children in need across Canada. For more information on Jays Care Foundation, visit bluejays.com/jayscare. It was a great day. All players had a good time. Lots of groups out there. We had 80 foursomes to play at the club at Bond Head, and we had a pretty good day. It was well attended, and they had a great group of Blue Jay alumni out. Drew Hutchison is ahead 0-2. The shortstop, Andrew Romine. Romine doing most of the work at shortstop. It was supposed to be Jose Iglesias, who had stress fractures in his legs, and they're now in the process within the next 24 hours of getting an update on the status of Iglesias. There's a line driving it up. Melky Cabrera battling that sun, had his hand up there to help him out. Well, we're concerned about Drew Hutchison's velocity. If you look at the starts back on May 6th, it was almost 95. It's just dropped after each start, and that was a red flag for the Blue Jays.
I think it's a concern. The Blue Jays need to keep an eye on Hutchison here, and that's why Pete Walker and John Gibbons gave him a couple extra days rest before this start, especially for a player coming off of surgery. Did not even pitch in the major leagues last year, just rehabbing in the minors.
Ian Kinsler gets jammed, and nice play by Reyes. Good scoop by Encarnacion. Hutchison got it right in on his hands, and he grounds out to the shortstop.
Well, it's one of the better fastballs we've seen from Hutchison tonight at 92, and he ran it in on the hands of Kinsler. That's the Drew Hutchison we know, not the 88, 89, 90 so much. Look at the play by Reyes, barehanding it, the off-balance throw, but then again the glove work by Encarnacion. We've seen Edwin do this all season at first base. Nice pick.
Well, that was the surprising aspect of that tough loss in the Kansas City series. Reyes threw a ball in the dirt very similar to that, and Edwin didn't dig it out. That was as much of a surprise as was the low throw.
Yes, it was. Both ends were shockers, and especially the loss that the Blue Jays endured because of it. But as we said, there's an awful lot of good things that happened during that run.
Torrey Hunter goes after that fastball and fouls it out of play. It's 1-2. Torrey Hunter, one of the real good guys in baseball, and he has been for a long time. He has played with a lot of enthusiasm throughout his career. He's now 38 years old. Strike 3 call. Hunter didn't like it. He'll talk it over with the home plate umpire, Tony Randazzo. The inning is over. We'll head to the 4th. Still a scoreless ball game. Magazine is out. It's the World Cup Preview Edition. We break down all 32 teams and identify all the key players. It's on the newsstands now, or you can subscribe at sportsnet.ca/magazine. Great cover and a beautiful edition to break down the World Cup, and it'll be right around the corner for sure. 32 teams anxious to move into Brazil and start the World Cup. Melky Cabrera. He struck out his first time up. Melky was out here early in the afternoon before regular batting practice, and I asked him what he was working on. He said just quickness. He said, I think I'm getting a little bit too long, trying to shorten up that stroke a bit. There's a fly ball into center field. Jackson over to his right. One down.
And that just reminds you of how difficult this game is. A hitter the caliber of Melky Cabrera coming out here early, trying to figure something out that he's just not feeling quite the same. And that's exactly what happens with hitters. You lose that feel at the plate. It could be that your swing's getting a little bit long, but you get out there and try to iron that out. But it's a constant battle day in and day out. This guy spent a lot of time in the batting cages and extra batting practice on the field.
Blue Jays had the off day yesterday, so when you play 162 games, that one off day feels like a 3-day vacation. So he wanted to come out and tune things up a bit. Jose Bautista takes a strike. Boy, he keeps you off balance. Sanchez does.
Just look at the reaction of Jose Bautista right there. You don't even need to watch the pitch. Just watch the hitter, and you see a Jose Bautista react like that. Very defensive, very indecisive there. That tells you what the pitches are doing.
93 miles an hour. He just barely got a piece of it up and away.
He's throwing his pitches at different speeds, changing locations, but again, just not really, a hitter's not able to sit on a particular pitch.
They mentioned Sanchez has not allowed a home run in 8 starts this season. He's the only starter in baseball that's made more than 5 starts to not give up a home run. What a change. 67 miles an hour. And Bautista strikes out. Edwin Encarnacion homered on the first day of June just to keep things going.
Just thought he'd just take off where he left off that last month. The calendar turned over, but Edwin says, I'm not changing. Got into this pitch and just lined it over the left field fence.
For his efforts in May, Edwin won the American League Player of the Month award. He becomes the 10th Blue Jay player to win that award. And those 10 players have won 16 monthly awards. Jose Bautista has won 5 Player of the Month awards. And right now, it looks like the Blue Jay hitters are trying to solve Anibal Sanchez.
We talked about Sanchez not giving up a home run, and this is a team leading the league in home runs. Something has to give here, but I tell you, the way Anibal Sanchez is throwing right now.
We see Edwin lose that grip on the bat handle an awful lot. He is so relaxed at the plate, and oftentimes he'll be out on that front foot. And Encarnacion wants that bat back. He's got a good feeling about that bat. Fans are booing, and Encarnacion, you could see him say, get that fan another bat. But he wants this one.
Sometimes they have their babies, they don't want them to go away. I'm sure he'll take care of that fan.
Pulls this one foul. We mentioned the Player of the Month award. It started in the National League first. It began in 1958. William Giles, the president of the National League, instituted the National League Player of the Month award. American League didn't start until '74.
Isn't that strange with the two leagues, all the different rules?
Another foul on. Barry Bonds has the most Player of the Month awards. He won 13. Alex Rodriguez has won it 10 times. Frank Thomas 8, and Albert Bell 7. That's a lot of consistent production. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. We're at the top of the 4th inning. Now it's full. Lynn's on deck. Most home runs in baseball. Blue Jays 19 more than the Colorado Rockies.
And if they want to keep that going
9
tonight,
more, excuse me. There's another foul.
They have their hands full against Sanchez if they want to keep that going tonight. It's the swings of the Blue Jays. You can tell they're just having a very difficult time gauging the pitches from Sanchez, moving the ball in and out. But the big thing he does is he's changing speeds with all of his pitches. We've seen his changeup go from 67 up to 88.
And look at all of the pitches that he's thrown down in the zone to Encarnacion. Obviously, the scouting report for Sanchez is got to pitch him down. Lind is on deck, and he's been great against right-handed pitching all season. There's a ball that's going to drop down the right field line. That'll go all the way to the wall. Encarnacion is headed for second, and he'll get there standing up. A 3-2 pitch up and away, and he drilled it to the wall in right.
We haven't seen Sanchez make too many mistakes yet, but he left that fastball out over the plate to Edwin, and he saw that one very well. That's another case of Edwin not trying to do too much with 2 strikes. We've seen him go to the right side of the field more and more, and that's under the advice of Kevin Seitzer, not trying to do too much in certain situations. Just taking what the pitcher's giving you.
#16th double of the season for Encarnacion. He's got 2 triples and 19 homers. Then takes that first pitch once again. He rarely swings at any first pitches. Encarnacion leads the American League. That was his 37th extra base hit.
I think you can safely call Edwin a slugger.
Mr. Slugger. There's a ball hit into right. Torrey Hunter is there, and the inning's over. No runs, a hit, a man left. We'll go to the bottom of the fourth. Lots of zeros in Detroit. Give us your thoughts about Drew Hutchison early in the game. Do you see much improvement from what you were concerned about?
Yeah, Buck, I do. You know, I really think he kicked it in last inning. I thought he was much sharper. You know, he wasn't quite as fine early the first couple innings, but he's getting some big outs. You know, we got a nice little pitching duel going here. Sanchez is on his game, so you know, we got to figure out a way to scratch a couple across.
Gib, I know you got a scouting report on all hitters, but what do you do? What's your approach against this guy stepping to the plate right now, Miguel Cabrera?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's been hot too, and he's been the best hitter in baseball for how many years now. So yeah, he hopefully comes up with like this situation with nobody on base. But I was looking at the numbers too. Surprisingly, he's been struggling a little bit against lefties this year, which is very unusual. He struggles against anybody, but his struggles, of course, are different than everybody else's. But you know, you got to keep guys off base in front of him. You know, maybe give him his singles, his doubles. You know, with the bases empty. So we'll see.
Gibby, thanks for your time.
All right, guys.
That's John Gibbons from the dugout giving his thoughts about Drew Hutchison and Miguel Cabrera. Cabrera grounded out to Brett Lawrie, basically in shallow center field. This one is pulled outside of third. I spoke to Lawrie about his play at second base, and he says he's getting more comfortable all the time. But he also told me something that was interesting. He says, I feel like I can play deeper at second base than most guys. I've got a lot of lateral range and got the third baseman's arm.
And that arm strength, that's right. And Brett can play a little deeper out there in right center field.
Cabrera with a funky swing. You don't see that very often.
There's a changeup from Hutchison and ran kind of up and in, but obviously Miggy did not see that ball very well.
Strike three call. There's that location we've been looking for. 4 strikeouts, 1 out here in the fourth. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Well, they sure will, JB, and Marcus Stroman will open up that series. He'll start on Friday night against the Cardinals. James Shields giving up that grand slam home run, and Jaime Garcia starting for the Cardinals. So the Cardinals will bring in Colton Wong. He was named the National League Rookie Player of the Month for the month of May. You also get a chance to see the newest Cardinal, Oscar Taveras, when he comes into town Friday.
Be a good test for young Marcus Stroman. He really showed his stuff in his last outing in Toronto, trying to make that adjustment from coming out of the bullpen for the Blue Jays. Went back to AAA and got back into his routine, and being in the starting rotation, he looked very comfortable.
Victor Martinez looks very comfortable every time he steps in the box. He singled to the base of the wall in right field. Only a good play by Bautista kept him to a single. So we want to remind you fans to make arrangements to come out to Rogers Center to see the National League champion St. Louis Cardinals on Friday night. We'll be there for a 3-game series.
Hutchison made a great pitch to Miguel Cabrera with 2 strikes. We'll see if he can do it again to Victor.
Victor looks like he's hitting in a wiffle ball game.
He looks so comfortable. It doesn't look like you tried to come inside with a fastball. He clears it, gets it out of there, drives it into right field. You go soft away, he covers it, fouls it off down the third baseline. Just his plate coverage is just amazing.
Victor Martinez signed as a non-drafted free agent with the Cleveland Indians in 1996. He played 97 and 98 in the Venezuelan Summer League. Breaking ball, Brett Lawrie. There's that range, but he can't find the handle. He closed ground on it very well, but it went off his glove. That's a base hit for Victor Martinez, his second of the night.
You know, Brett Lawrie was already looking forward to this throw because with the runner, the speed of Martinez, and Lawrie knows that. He's thinking of backhanding this ball and coming up firing. May have been thinking about that throw too soon. Did a great job getting to the ball, but just couldn't come up with it.
Well, he's got the acceleration and the range to get to balls, and that one just skipped off his glove. Martinez is 2 for 2 already tonight. Another 2-strike base hit. J.D. Martinez struck out his first time up. The high fly ball to right deep. Bautista's back in the corner at the wall, makes the catch. Boy, he took his eye off of it and then battled a very tough sky. You can see him dealing with that bright blue sky. And he stuck his glove out right at the end and made a nice catch.
Well, Jose was very unsure of himself. He pursued the ball perfectly, but see him put his head down to see where he was, but he may have lost the ball when he took his head down to look to see where the wall was. And sometimes an outfielder will do that to make sure they don't run into a wall, but in doing it, you lose track of that baseball, and you can see just this last little grasp at the last second to make the catch.
2 outs. Don Kelly goes after that changeup. Kelly had a base hit to left field his first time up. One of 2 base runners stranded into second. Changeup missed. It's a ball and a strike.
I think those two are talking hitting
every day.
Love to listen in on that one, huh?
This is popped down the left side. That's going to reach the seats. Victor Martinez has been a good player for a long time. Edwin Encarnacion, the last 4 years, has established himself as one of the premier hitters in baseball. Not just a slugger, but a very good hitter as well. Victor Martinez is an all-star silver slugger, and he's driven in 100 runs 4 times in his career. The lay steal was on right there. Victor Martinez feeling a little frisky on the bases tonight.
Victor will sneak a couple from me. He's got 2 this year, 2 for 4, but he's the kind of guy that might just try to sneak one because nobody's expecting him.
Yeah, he was bouncing off for the delay steal, and then Kelly fouled it on. A ball and 2 strikes, 2 outs. And a little looper into right. Bautista got a good break, and the inning is over. Tigers strand the base runner. We have played 4 scoreless innings. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn. Enjoy the 2014 baseball season with MLB.tv. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live or on demand in HD quality. You can watch up to 4 games at once with multi-game viewing. Season subscriptions start at $129.99. Visit BlueJays.com for more details. Good crowd in the Motor City to watch the Blue Jays and Tigers, and this has always been a storied rivalry going back to the mid-'80s. Of course, the Tigers won in '84. The Blue Jays won the division in '85, and the Tigers broke the hearts of Blue Jay fans in '87.
The old AL East days.
Yeah, it was quite a rivalry. Brett Lawrie flying out to left his first time up. Sanchez has held the Blue Jays to just 2 hits. Edwin Encarnacion has a double. Juan Francisco has a double, and that's it. He allowed just 3 hits in his last start, over 8 1/3. There's a good changeup. He left the ball game in Oakland, leading 1-0. Turned it over to the bullpen, and Joe Nathan allowed a 3-run home run to Josh Donaldson, a walk-off home run. Sanchez has been terrific since coming back from that blister problem he had on his index finger.
Well, when he left that game, he thought he had the W too, but it was a tough one. He pitched a great ball game out there in Oakland. Joe Nathan could not hang on. One of his blown saves for the Tigers this year.
Tough hop for Kelly. He waits back on it and gets Brett Lawrie by a half a step.
Celebrate and save during Home's 50th anniversary sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Well, the shadows have finally moved off the playing surface here at Comerica Park. It's a little bit less challenging for the hitters. Juan Francisco had a double to center field his first time up. It's that breaking ball hard, but well fouled.
That double by Francisco was a very nice piece of hitting, a ball out over the plate. You see the defense shifted around playing him to pull, but he stayed on that ball, stayed through it, really drove it up the middle.
Francisco's doing all this damage in just 113 at bats. Give you an idea of what a regular player has at this time of the season. Melky Cabrera has 142 at bats. So that's what an everyday player has accumulated at this point. Bouncing ball, nice play by Miguel Cabrera. Flips to Sanchez, 2 down. The Blue Jays came into this series here in Comerica Park 4 games up in the AL East. It's the first time that has happened since 1985. Blue Jays came in here leading the East 4 games ahead, and boy, it's a good feeling, and you have to enjoy it. John Gibbons has been very pleased with every aspect of his team's play.
Absolutely. They've done it all. They've hit, they've pitched, they've played great defense, and you know, in early April, in early May, you keep using that word early, but we're into June now, and the standings kind of take on a face of their own, and John Gibbons is pretty happy to see himself at the top, understanding there's a lot of baseball to be played, but it's a pretty good place to be. I think especially seeing the way the other teams in that division are playing, nobody's really going out and grabbing it. In fact, the only team that is doing that is the Blue Jays.
Ball on a strike to Deanna Navarro. John Sherholz, the great general manager of Kansas City and of the Atlanta Braves, said that 60 games was always his benchmark. He wouldn't really make any judgments as to whether his team was good or bad until he got to the 60-game mark. Everybody had about 12 starts. Position players had accumulated a number of at-bats. You got a good feel for your bullpen. So that's when you really start to evaluate just how good you are.
I think that's where the Blue Jays are right now. They've seen where the starting pitching has come, which of course has led them to this. The lineup has been terrific. A little bit of a slow start in April, but they've been terrific since. But the starting pitching has been a pleasant surprise. And now you just want to see them continue to be able to perform like this, because there is still a lot of baseball to be played.
I think the biggest thing is the joy the players have gotten out of this run. They know they're a long way from the finish line, but they're in first place.
It's a good place to be.
Blue Jays have 28 wins by their starters, 4 more than the Tigers, and Navarro couldn't hold up. The Blue Jays go down in order in the 5th. We'll head to the bottom of the 5th. Still 0-0. Center Friday, June 6th. The Blue Jays will take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Game time is 7:07 p.m. Come celebrate 25 years of Rogers Center memories. There'll be special appearances by Jimmy Key and Ernie Witt. Great opportunity to help celebrate the Rogers Center 25th anniversary. For tickets, call the Blue Jays at 416-341-1234 or log on to BlueJays.com. Be a great night. Jimmy Key, I'll never forget Jimmy Key's reaction as he left the World Series mound and had tears in his eyes about the possibility of that being his last game at Rogers Center. And he'll be back there on Friday night.
A lot of very fond memories.
Hard to believe it's been 25 years.
Yes, no kidding. Judging by those graphics, it looked like it went up in a hurry.
It did, yeah. It did a couple weeks. You know, those construction crews in Toronto, they can really get things done. Inside, ball and a strike. Two of the better hitting ball clubs in all of baseball being shut down totally.
You know, whether it's by design or not, Drew Hutchison's almost taking on an Anibal Sanchez look tonight, and it's the way he's changing speeds, whether he's doing that on purpose or not, but he just needs to continue to get down in the zone.
Hot shot, gloved by Francisco. Plenty of time to throw out Jackson.
Canon's Best in Glass sales event. Performance cameras and lenses at the season's best prices. Visit canon.ca/bestinglass.
Job by Juan Francisco right here. Just gets down. He knows he's got time. Block that ball, and of course he knows he's got a great arm as well.
Julio Rivera has worked hard with Juan Francisco, pushing him to improve his skills defensively. Now that's a good fastball. Alex Avila, the catcher, grounded out to the first baseman to end the second.
Luis Rivera has spent time with Francisco over there as well as Brett Lawrie at second, because I think the whole club understands the benefits of having those two guys out there against right-handed pitching.
Well, it has worked out very well for everybody, including Adam Lind. So with Rivera's work to improve the defense of Francisco, that has allowed John Gibbons to use Francisco at third base and move Lawrie to second.
Because it's an offensive move. It helps John Gibbons put together a better offensive lineup against right-handers. So just polishing up Juan's defense over at third.
Well, it's not unprecedented. It's happened quite a bit in baseball when a team acquires a duplicate position player, where you've got a second baseman, you bring in another second baseman, somebody's got to make a move. It happened right here with Miguel Cabrera and Prince Fielder. Avila strikes out, 2 down here in the 5th.
It's a nice job by Drew Hutchison hitting the glove. Diamond Navarro calling for the elevated fastball. You see the glove elevated above the belt of Avila. This time Hutchison gets it up there with a little extra velocity as well. That's where that pitch has to be. If it's a little bit lower, it becomes very hittable.
Andrew Romine gets sawed off with that inside pitch.
That's not a first pitch you want to go up hacking at. If you're looking for a fastball in, that's one thing, but clearly he was not looking for the ball in. Took a very defensive swing.
Hutchison much more aggressive since he had a little conversation with Jose Bautista on the Blue Jays bench. Upstairs, he missed.
If you're a 23-year-old kid who's already making an impact on a first-place team in the AL East, you're pretty confident in yourself. And now you're coming back from a little setback, and you get a guy like Jose, a team leader, come and give you a little shove and say, "Let's go, buddy. We need you."
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good shot in the arm for Drew Hutchison.
And that's how you lead.
That's a leadership role right there by Jose Bautista. And you're just seeing a lot of good things in this team. And hey, when you're playing winning baseball.
Well, they got Tony Randazzo. Here's what we were talking about earlier. After a struggling inning, Bautista comes in from right field and looks at Hutchison and said, "Man, we got confidence in you. You're the man. Let's go."
And that's not a confrontation. Drew didn't shout back or anything. He just listened, and he probably in his own head said, yeah, you're right about that. And now I got a veteran player who's got my back and wants me to give it that extra gear now.
Tony Randazzo looks like he may have gotten hit underneath the mass.
See this off-speed pitch. Drew just pulled this pitch, and it comes right up and underneath. Got him right in the neck.
You see the umpires, they're pretty vulnerable with that position in that slot area, and that has been a concern for the umpires. They have been trying to come up with the best position possible to stay safe. They've got the padding, of course, but you can see that clipped him right underneath that extension on his face mask.
And you can see the way they dress. They're still pretty exposed. You see the arms of Tony Randazzo just fully exposed there. Foul tips, balls in the dirt.
Full count, 2 outs to the number 9 hitter. We'll do it again. Leadoff man Ian Kinsler's 0 for 2 so far. He'll be next if Romine can reach. Bottom of the 5th inning, a scoreless game. You just got to believe if Hutchison could get the ball down, then he'd be able to get Romine here. Everything has been up in this at bat.
And that's pitching 101 right there. You have to move the ball in and out, change speeds back and forth, but you also have to change the plane up and down. And if you're up, changing that plane down in the zone.
This ball is playable. Left fielder Melky Cabrera is there. The inning is over. We'll go to the 6th. Anthony Gose will start things off. He'll face Anibal Sanchez, then Jose Reyes and Melky Cabrera. Back to the top of the order. It's Camp Day. We want you to step up to the plate for Camp Day at your local Tim Hortons. Every copy you buy will help send an economically disadvantaged kid on a camping adventure that can open up their eyes to their own potential. So buy a Tim Hortons coffee tomorrow and help make a difference. Send a kid to camp. Everybody's going to have a coffee tomorrow, but tomorrow you might even have two to help out some kids go to camp and find out their own potential. Sixth inning, Anthony Ghost to lead things off. He shows bunt and drops it right back to the pitcher. Sanchez made an easy play of it. One pitch, one out here in the sixth.
Good idea by Anthony Ghost right there in a scoreless ball game. He's trying to take that ball with him. Some people will wonder, why did he bunt the ball right back to the pitcher? Well, he didn't try to. He tried to bring that with him. He's been very successful bunting down the first baseline and using his speed to beat any throw to the bag.
Not a bad idea. Blue Jays have just 2 hits. Tigers have only 3. Top of the order. Jose Reyes has flied out and struck out. Line drive to the shortstop. 2 outs.
Celebrate and save during Home's 50th anniversary sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Now that's a Ferris wheel, huh? Baseballs right outside the ballpark. Melky Cabrera. Cabrera's 0 for 2.
First pitch curveball by Sanchez. Again, you cannot sit on any particular pitch. He continues to change up his patterns. Game calling by Alex Avila as well back there.
Sanchez came from the Boston Red Sox organization. He saw a pretty good mentor that he copied a bit.
Yeah, he used to be more of a power pitcher. He was 96, 97 in the minor leagues, and he emulated Pedro Martinez, who was over at Boston at the time when he was still in the minor leagues. But what he learned from Pedro is that you could pull back a little bit. You don't have to air it out. Sanchez realized that when he aired it out, he got tired and he could only go 5-6 innings. So he started changing speeds a little bit, much like he saw Pedro do, and start pitching more. And he really found some success.
1-2. Melky slaps it toward third. It's foul.
He also enjoyed watching Greg Maddux pitch for the Atlanta Braves. And if you're going to watch 2 extremes, Pedro with the power arm, but how he knows how to pitch, and then a Greg Maddux, and you combine those two, that's what you get. What we're watching tonight right here, and it's a pretty good formula.
Melky Cabrera 10 for 20 against Sanchez. Changeup hit deep but foul. He stayed back on that changeup. He used that slow changeup very effectively.
He sure does. He does that, and then we'll see if he comes back hard after that. We saw him earlier using, he struck out Jose Bautista, but he also used it, and then he came back with that hard cutter in on Ghost.
Sanchez didn't like that pitch. Now they're coming in. Bouncing ball. Cabrera with a nice backhand scoop. Good play. Sanchez appreciates the nifty glove of Miguel Cabrera. That ends the inning. Headed to the bottom of the 6th. take place Sunday, June 8th. Blue Jays take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Game time is 1:07 p.m. First 20,000 fans in the Rogers Center will receive a Jose Reyes bobblehead. Call the Blue Jays for tickets at 416-341-1234 or log on to BlueJays.com to order your tickets. Sunday, June 8th, Blue Jays and the Cardinals, Jose Reyes bobblehead day. Ian Kinsler takes the first pitch strike. That's how we start the bottom of the 6th. Good changeup. Hopped up. Encarnacion over near the Blue Jays dugout, and he can't get there. And long run.
The long run, he had a lot of friends in that dugout, letting them know how much room he had. A lot of times you don't get that help in the visitor side or your opponent's side.
All of the pitchers are saying dive, dive.
Hutch was yelling dive.
Breaking ball hammered to left field, but Melky Cabrera is there on the warning track. Kinsler's retired. Just enough off that breaking ball to have Kinsler out on that front foot.
Yeah, not the ideal location that Hutchison wants, but it's just enough off-speed pitch to get him out front, and that's what pitching is all about, is upsetting a hitter's timing. That's exactly what Hutchison did with that breaking ball.
Hutchison has retired 6 in a row. And 12 of the last 13. Only Victor Martinez has reached in that stretch. He had a hit out into shallow center field. Torrey Hunter with a big cut.
Good slider right there by Hutchison, and you see when the ball's down in the zone how much more effective it can be. Again, looking like a fastball, good rotation on that ball, and that's a late break Hutchison slider.
Bautista's got it measured in his tracks and right. 2 down. Tigers have dominated the American League MVP award the last 3 seasons. Justin Verlander won it in 2011 to go with his Cy Young award, and then it was all Miguel Cabrera the last 2 years.
They've had the horses leading the way these last few years. Miguel Cabrera back-to-back years. Just to show you what kind of run you're on when the MVP is coming from your club for a few years in a row.
They just haven't been able to capture that elusive World Series championship. Boy, Hutchison all of a sudden up to 93. That's plenty.
That's where you want to pitch. If Hutch can be around that 93, that's where we've seen him earlier this year with the good velocity, good command of the strike zone.
You can see the look on Cabrera's face as if to say Hutchison has gotten his attention. Like he's really grinding to try to figure out Drew Hutchison. This is their first matchup.
It's difficult for a hitter to face a pitcher for the first time, but when you're a hitter of the caliber of Miguel Cabrera, it doesn't usually matter a whole lot. And we're seeing some reactions from him tonight saying, okay, just kind of gauging him. This kid's got some stuff, though.
Slider, and he stays back and fouls it into the seats.
The problem for Hutchison is you have to be very careful, because you can think you've got him, but you make one mistake, and it doesn't even have to be a mistake too far out. And Miguel Cabrera doesn't just hit it hard, he'll hit it out of the ballpark.
Last 22 games, he's hit .397. He can get to that pitch up and away. With 2 strikes, Cabrera over his career has really protected the outer 3 quarters of the plate. If you have good enough command, you can get him out inside.
You can get it in there, and that's what Drew was good early in this season for the first couple months. He's able to get that fastball in.
He went around. Jim Wolf down at first confirms that Cabrera strikes out for a second time tonight. We'll go to the 7th. Big part of the Blue Jays lineup. Jose Bautista, then Edwin Encarnacion. He has a double, followed by Adam Lynn. He's been wearing out right-handers all season. last at bat by Jose Bautista might show you just how hard it is.
Well, and it also shows you what kind of stuff Anibal Sanchez has tonight. You see the very defensive approach by Bautista, clearly not picking up the ball real well, but also credit to Anibal Sanchez. Look at the off speed. He gets down to 67 miles per hour with some of those changeups just to throw hitters off.
Boy, he was good in that at bat, and Bautista, we haven't seen him take too many bad swings like that all season. We mentioned Sanchez's last start against the Oakland A's. They have a powerful lineup as well. He held them to just 3 hits over 8 1/3.
Well, and you can see nothing is straight. A lot of movement on his pitches, and then if he locates the pitches with that movement, that's just a very difficult 1-2 punch. And he uses the whole plate. He moves the ball in and out. We've seen him do that. He clearly goes back and forth by changing speeds, and he's changed the plane up and down. He's all aspects of pitching.
Bautista wanted Tony Randazzo to check with Jim Wolf. That's what they did with Cabrera. Wolf called Cabrera out on the appeal.
Well, it's difficult for a home plate umpire to watch the ball coming in and also see the swing or the check swing, and all a hitter asks right there is to get help. It's very difficult to see that, and we can see on that replay it looked like Jose held up.
2-1 count to Bautista.
That swing and the check swing on the previous pitch, again, those are clear indications that a very good hitter in Bautista is just not picking up the baseball real well. And again, that now credits the pitcher, Anibal Sanchez. We talked about getting later in the evening like we are now. Those shadows are not a factor anymore. That's just great pitching by Sanchez.
Buries that ball in the dirt.
Early in the game, hitters don't want to give credit to the pitchers because it's bright, it's tough to see, but get to this point in the game, and I think the Tigers hitters will be crediting Hutchison with some good stuff, and as well the Blue Jays hitters. They want to credit pitchers, though.
Full count pitch. Nice play by Kelly. Long throw in time. 1 down. Edwin Encarnacion comes to the plate. He has 19 home runs, but if you go back to 2012, he is right there with Miguel Cabrera for the most home runs in the major leagues.
Just a model of consistency. These guys just keep pounding him out, and they do it year in and year out, and that's how you get those numbers, and that's how you get onto one of those lists right there, and we're seeing 2 of them in action tonight.
Yeah, Edwin hasn't gotten the accolades of Cabrera. Miguel, of course, has been doing it for a lot longer time. There's a drive down the left side, and that's fouled into the seats. Ball in the strike. What a terrific ball game. Both pitchers have really neutralized potent lineups.
Well, a lot of fans like to see scoring in baseball, but if you're a fan of pitching, this is a dandy.
Hot shot. Romine takes it on the hop. 2 ground ball outs here in the 7th. Nine straight retired by Anibal Sanchez, matching Drew Hutchison pitch for pitch here.
And it got the feel where maybe one swing of the bat might determine this thing tonight.
Well, the Blue Jays have more players in their lineup that are capable of doing that than the Tigers. And here's one of them, Adam Lind. He's flied out twice tonight.
And the reason you get that feel when pitchers are doing what they're doing here tonight is that it's going to be very difficult to put together a few hits against an Anibal Sanchez right now.
Left-hander Ian Kroll starts to loosen up down in the Tigers bullpen. Going away. They hit their spot.
Continue to stay away on Adam Lind.
Boy, made a good pitch, just missed. He wanted that pitch. Perfect spot down and away, just off the plate.
Throw a 93-mile-per-hour fastball down there. Watch Anibal Sanchez. Oh, thought he was going to get the call from Tony Randazzo, and he wanted it.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Now it's full. The last time Drew Hutchison was in this kind of a duel, it was against the Texas Rangers. Yu Darvish and Drew Hutchison matched up pitch for pitch, and Hutchison threw his first career complete game shutout. Darvish struck out 11 over 8 innings, but took the loss. Inside, popped up. Cabrera in foul ground. Makes the catch. The inning is over. We're going to the bottom of the 7th. Sanchez, Hutchison matched up in a duel. June 7th, the Blue Jays will take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Game time is 1:07 p.m. There are special kids prize tickets in the 200 and 500 level outfield seats. After the game, kids 14 and under can run the bases just like the pros. So call the Blue Jays and get your tickets at 416-341-1234 or log online at bluejays.com and bring your kids out for Junior Jays Saturday. Always a great time. Now they've got all of the attractions set up outside the stadium for the pregame. There are slides, there's face painting, all kinds of activities outside Rogers Center before the game. So make sure you call the Blue Jays and come out to Junior Jays Saturday. Here's that Victor Martinez fella again. He's already 2 for 2 tonight, leading the American League in hitting, average up to 242.
Not sure when you want to face him. I guess leading off the inning is best.
But they don't have the depth after Martinez as they once had. JD Martinez is next, and then Don Kelly. Last year at this time they had Cabrera, Martinez, and Fielder. They had a fearsome threesome. Johnny Peralta was there as well.
A lot of sock in that lineup.
Two balls and a strike. Now 3-1. The beauty of this game tonight, there has not been a base on balls.
Very well pitched both ways, and both pitches have been all around the strike zone.
Changeup. The Pitch Tracker is brought to you by Acer, official partner of the Toronto Blue Jays.
You can throw a 3-1 changeup over to Victor Martinez. That's a great pitch. If you throw it 3-1, it makes me wonder if they'll come back with the 3-2.
High fly ball. Melky Cabrera. Martinez has retired for the first time tonight. Big out. Bottom of the 7th, first batter.
Gianno Navarro's called a great ball game tonight, but you see him going away right there. Hutch says, no, I want to come in with the heater. He's going in with the fastball there. Again, he didn't throw it where he wanted to, but I just like the mentality right there of Drew Hutchison. You stay aggressive with the fastball.
J.D. Martinez, the left fielder. Had a good rip at that first pitch.
It also shows you at 23 years old, Drew Hutchison knows what he wants to do, and he's got a catcher, a veteran catcher behind the plate, but he's not afraid to say, no, I want to do this right here. Drew Hutchison, I think, is mature beyond his years. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be pretty special.
You were a former catcher. Who has the final say in that situation?
In that situation right there, I like what DeHonor did. He knows what he wants to do, but you know what? Drew wants to go in right here. Okay, let's go, big boy. But now you're also getting to a point in the ball game that if it's something you really disagree with, you have to put down that finger that you want.
How about that pitch? Slider for the strikeout. 2 up, 2 down.
This is just the mentality right here that we see Drew Hutchison. If we use the word bulldog, that looks like a bulldog right there. He's just saying, I'm coming to get you. That's his mentality on the mound, and that's something we've seen right from the beginning of spring training. We talked how hard he worked all spring to earn a spot in this rotation. He did that, and it just continued into April and May.
Don Kelly takes a pitch outside. Drew Hutchison came to spring training and let the coaching staff know, I'm your 5th starter. I'm your guy. And he's backed it up. Lazy fly ball to left. About 7 complete here in Detroit. A scoreless ball game. Hutchison and Sanchez locked in a pitcher's duel. Or follow us on Twitter. Find everything you need to know about what's going on. Check us out right on Twitter. New pitcher for the Tigers is Jabba Chamberlain, the former Yankee, here with the Tigers.
Well, Chamberlain's done a really nice job out of the bullpen for Brad Osmus. 2.7 ERA, struck out 29 batters in 23 1/3 innings of work. His fastball average around 94 miles per hour. Slider, curveball, changeup. Allowed just 4 earned runs over his last 23 outings, including 25 strikeouts in those 21 1/3 innings of work. Job has been a pleasant surprise.
Anibal Sanchez has continued to dominate hitters since coming off the disabled list. He goes 7 innings tonight. Shuts out the Blue Jays on just 2 hits, a Francisco double and an Encarnacion double. That's it. No walks, 5 strikeouts through just over 100 pitches.
Sanchez just described the art of pitching tonight. He had movement on all of his pitches. Nothing seemed straight, and we saw Blue Jays hitters just looking very perplexed tonight. Good location. He mixed it up, used both sides of the plate. Coming off that, he had a blister on his right middle finger. And on the disabled list, missed a few starts, but since he's come back, he has been dominating.
So the Blue Jays will get a new look, and after facing Sanchez for 7 innings, anybody is a welcome sight. Get him muster just 2 hits. Now Brett Laurie will try to get things going against Jabba Chamberlain.
It's usually your goal as a lineup when a starting pitcher is throwing the ball very well is you want to get into a bullpen, but if you get into a bullpen where the guys are throwing just as well, it makes it even more difficult.
Thing about Chamberlain is you know it's going to be hard. Hard fastball, hard breaking ball. Sanchez threw pitches as slow as 67 tonight and as high as 93. Laurie is 3 for 6 against Jabba Chamberlain. Chamberlain broke onto the scene in 2007 with the Yankees. Pitched 19 games at the end of the season, and he was the toast of New York. Breaking ball to Romine. 1 down. Chamberlain in that 2007 season pitched just 19 games. He had 24 innings of work, allowed 12 hits, and struck out 34. As they say, Nuke Lelouch said it, he announced his presence with authority.
Well, it's a good hard fastball, 94 miles per hour, and then he throws that breaker right there on Brett Laurie. Again, it's a pretty good 1-2 punch for a pitcher, and that's that key is that velocity. When you can air it out like that, it's hard for a hitter to sit on it.
The breaking ball around the plate. Juan Francisco has one of the 2 Blue Jay hits tonight. He hit a double into straightaway center field in the 3rd, and then was caught trying to advance from 2nd to 3rd. Another breaking ball, another ball.
That's the curveball from Jabba Chamberlain. He'll throw the curveball, he'll throw the slider as well. The curveball will be in that 76 to 79 mile per hour range. The slider much harder, around 85.
There you go, that harder breaking ball. Tigers have retired 11 straight Blue Jays. Last to reach Edwin Encarnacion with 2 outs in the 4th.
Francisco's not going to see many fastballs. If he does, it's going to be elevated or it's going to be off the plate one way or the other.
Yeah, he saw a fastball back in the 3rd and doubled. It's a high fly ball to left. JD Martinez is there. 2 down. We're in the 8th. Anytime these 2 clubs get together, you expect there to be a lot of runs scored, but that's not the case tonight.
Not the case at all, and they've had their struggles in the rotation, believe it or not, with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, but you don't expect that to last too long, and when you send out those 2 along with Anibal Sanchez, you've got a pretty good string of starting pitching.
Tigers went 17-12 in May with an ERA of 3.92. First pitch swinging, it's Navarro. Easy play for Ian Kinsler. Java Chamberlain, 3 up, 3 down. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Now it's time for Blue Jays Central Update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn. Try new pulled pork.
Well, Jose Bautista is the selection today in this little encounter with Drew Hutchison early in the game, saying, come on, Drew, stay aggressive, go get these guys. And it seemed to work. Hutchison was very aggressive. See Gianno Navarro calling for the elevated fastball again on Miguel Cabrera. Good sharp slider right there. And Drew Hutchison made a nice little comeback. John Gibbons shaking his hand, and that's a big outing for Drew Hutchison after the concern that the Blue Jays had, giving him a couple days rest. But what a leader, Jose Bautista, leading this club. He's been doing it with his bat and his glove for 2 months. Now he's doing it other ways as well.
Hutchison retired the final 11 men he faced. He turns things over now to the bullpen, and Dustin McGowan is first.
Well, Dustin McGowan's been a pleasant addition to that bullpen for John Gibbons after he took him out of that starting rotation. 7 relief appearances so far. He's limited the opposition to a 167 average. He's allowed just 1 earned run. Done a really nice job down there. It gives another power arm for John Gibbons to utilize out of the bullpen.
Drew Hutchison goes 7 innings. He allows just 3 hits. Didn't walk a batter and struck out 7. Neither starter walked a batter tonight, and Hutchison dropped his ERA to 3.50. So a job well done by Drew Hutchison, setting down a potent Tiger lineup. Now it's a matchup of the bullpens. Dustin McGowan. There was the first pitch down and away to Austin Jackson. Same pitch. He went down and got this one and flies out to right.
Celebrate the scene during Home's 50th anniversary sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Beautiful night at Comerica Park. Alex Avila, the number 8 hitter, has gone 0 for 2. First pitch swinging, and he pops it out of play.
McGowan will average around 94 miles per hour with that fastball, slider, and changeup.
Rajay Davis, a valuable weapon in a scoreless game, loosening up those legs should Avila get aboard. Fly ball down the left field line. Melky Cabrera racing over near the line, makes the catch. 2 down. McGowan in relief of Drew Hutchison. Hutchison has been terrific on the road. He ends up with a no decision in this ball game, but drops his road ERA to 2.03. Quite a difference. At home, he has a 7.71 ERA. Off to a much better start on the road. Number 9 hitter, Andrew Romine. Shows bunt, pulls the bat back.
And the 2 numbers that really stick out again for Hutchison: no walks, 7 strikeouts. That's the type of pitcher he was for the first couple of months when he was having success.
Good changeup. Romine fooled. Andrew Romine came from the Angels. He was traded this March for Jose Alvarez, left-handed pitcher. Brad Osmus in his first year as the Tigers skipper. Another changeup, another strikeout. Blue Jays have now retired 14 in a row. We're headed to the 9th. .100 of the world's best magazines on your tablet. Baseball fans, sign up at nextissue.ca/baseball and get an extended 60-day free trial. Blue Jay fans on hand here at Comerica Park. First of 3, 33,488 in attendance, and the closers into the ball game. Joe Nathan making his 23rd appearance of the season.
Well, Joe Nathan's ERA has elevated a little bit. Sometimes you see that out of closers. He's blown 4 saves, but has 13 on the season. Struck out 20 in 20 2/3 innings of work. He's 4th in the American League with those 13 saves.
Joe Nathan signed a 2-year, $20 million contract to come here to shore up the back end of the bullpen. He's the closer. He has blown 4 saves. This is obviously not a save situation, as there hasn't been a run scored yet. Anthony Gose bunted back to the pitcher his last time up.
And even though the defense may know he may bunt, it's still not a bad time for Anthony Gose to try one.
First pitch strike from Nathan. Nathan's now 39 years old. He's had a terrific career. They have given that hard slider to Gose all night long.
Nathan will average around 92 with that fastball, but that's that good hard slider. He'll be around 85, 86 with it.
Nathan began his career with the San Francisco Giants. Then he went to Minnesota, where he became the closer for the Twins, and his first year in Minnesota saved 44. He had a career high 47 saves for the Twins in 2009.
A lot of those saves against these Detroit Tigers.
Nathan then went down with Tommy John surgery. Missed all of 2010. Pitched in just 3 games in the minors, 11 before he appeared in 48 games for the Twins. Not so many save opportunities, but he's got 736 career ball games under his belt. Obviously, Anthony Ghost working to get aboard here. Reyes will follow. Joe Nathan last year had 43 saves and a 6-2 record for the Texas Rangers. Ball 4. Close pitch. Leadoff man's aboard. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. First walk of the ball game comes in the 9th.
Brad Osmus giving signs to Alex Avila behind the dish. That's to control the running game. Asking if Joe Nathan want to throw over or hold or pitch out. Going to keep Anthony Ghost close. A lot of times in this situation, pitcher will give a good hold and throw over just to see if you see the hands of the batter move and see if he might be thinking of bunting in this situation.
Avila has thrown out 43% of the base stealers. He's tough to run on. Not running. Breaking ball in there for a strike.
Not running, and Jose Reyes did not show bunt right there. Sometimes you take a pitch. If that was a ball, a 1-0 count's not a bad time to try a hit and run, but at 0-1 you cannot go hit and run.
There goes Reyes, ball's in the dirt. Ghost steals it, and they picked the perfect pitch to run on. The curveball was in the dirt. Ghost picks up the steal, his 3rd of the season.
There's a curveball in the dirt. Alex Avila could not come up with it. Watch Anthony Ghost stealing this bag. He's not peeking, so he does not know where the baseball is right now. A lot of base stealers do not like to take a peek because they feel it slows them down. If he's stealing that base and peeks right now, he could just round second and go to 3rd. But a lot of speedsters will tell you they feel that it slows them down. They do not want to peek in. I peeked in. Did you, Buck? Did you peek in when you stole second?
I had all day long to peek in. Just the 3rd base runner for the Blue Jays to reach 2nd. Nobody out. We're in the top of the 9th.
Reyes bunts this ball. You want to bunt it towards 3rd. Make the 3rd baseman field it.
There's a little liner that's going to get through. They're going to stop Ghost at 3rd. Reyes just poked it through the shortstop hole past Romine into left. 1st and 3rd. Nobody out.
Jose says, never mind the bunt. I'm just going to get a base hit right here, punching that ball into left field. Good piece of hitting right there. It was a fastball up and over the plate. Good short stroke right there by Jose. Very little stride, straight to the baseball.
Ghost had to make sure this is safely into left field, and then he came around with a full head of steam, but he's stopped by Louis Rivera, 3rd base coach. You see John Gibbons said, now we're not going to gamble here. We got to run her at 3rd base. Nobody out. The infield is drawn in. That's interesting. This really puts pressure on the center of the Diamond defense. Reyes has got a shot to steal 2nd base now. There he goes. Pitch is popped up. Reyes has got to go back to first base. Oh, Melky had a pitch he could take. It looked like a breaking ball. Reyes had a terrific jump. They had no chance of throwing him out at second.
And as a hitter, you usually see that in your peripheral vision. And I think Melky is upset with himself right now for swinging at that pitch. Number one, it wasn't a great pitch to hit, but you know as a hitter that he got a great jump. You see that the infield is in. You have to understand where the infielders are. Jose steals that bag for fun if you just take this pitch right here. And I think Melky's kicking himself a little bit for swinging at that pitch.
This is interesting. Brad Ausmus out now. It's a scoreless game. Blue Jays have runners at first and third and one out. So Ausmus is looking at the options, and neither is pretty. Pitch to Bautista or pitch to Encarnacion. Pick your poison.
The double play is in order right now. If you put Jose on and load the bases, the double play is still in order, but you have the force out at home, so you can play the middle of the infield halfway against Edwin. These are the options Brad Ausmus has to consider right now, and he's probably talking to Nathan and asking him how he feels about pitching to these two guys and which one he prefers.
Bautista is 1 for 3 with a home run against Nathan. Encarnacion is 0 for 4. Very limited at bats. Doesn't make any difference to John Gibbons which one of them they choose to pitch to.
Pick your poison is what John Gibbons is saying.
Joe Nathan in a jam in the ninth. Bautista 0 for 3 so far. Ground ball up the middle, and that sneaks through. Ghost comes in to score. Reyes is going to third. Bautista just drove it right back over the mound and drives home the first run of the ball game. Anthony Ghost comes in to score. He drew the leadoff walk off of Joe Nathan.
Well, it seemed like a harmless ground ball up the middle, a potential double play. You see Romine going for this ball. It looked like he held up. It's almost as if he thought Kinsler was going to get to it to his backhand. Romine going for the ball right here. Looks like he just hesitated and held up a little bit. Ball rolled into center field.
1-0 Blue Jays. Edwin Encarnacion. Bautista with his 41st RBI of the season.
How big is that at bat by Anthony Ghost leading off this ninth inning, understanding his role as a leadoff hitter in that inning, finding a way, any way to get on base, takes a very close 3-2 pitch, gets the call for ball 4, steals second base and scores on the base hit.
Anthony Ghost understands his role on this club right now. Outside. 1-0. Casey Jansen standing by ready in the Blue Jays bullpen. Ball on the strike.
Talked earlier about the injury to Iglesias, the shortstop for the Tigers, and that's the type of play it makes you think of. He was just golden with the glove.
Popped out of play. Drive of the game is brought to you by the 2014 Honda CR-V. Honda, proud to be the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, here's your player of the month, but he doesn't just hit the ball out of the ballpark. You see, he doesn't try to do too much with this pitch. Kevin Seitzer's preached this a lot. Edwin takes the ball out over the plate, lines it down the right field corner.
That double came in the fourth with 2 outs. He would end up stranded at second, but he hit the 3-2 pitch down the right field line. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. Pulled foul off the fence in front of the Tigers dugout. Both starters were terrific tonight. Anibal Sanchez for the Tigers, Drew Hutchison for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have 4 hits, the Tigers 3. There's only been 1 walk issued tonight. That came to start the top of the ninth. Joe Nathan walked Anthony Gose, who came around to score. Gose had a big stolen base. Stole second. Moved to third on the base hit by Reyes and scored on Bautista's RBI single.
A good slider by Nathan at the bottom of the zone, just missing.
Speed allows you to win tight ball games.
You see it in the playoffs every year. Close ball games, well pitched ball games, and sometimes it's a key stolen base, much like we saw Anthony Gose tonight.
Hit it there. Nice play by Avila.
Nice job by Avila here, getting down to his knees to block this baseball. You call that curveball in the dirt. You want to get to that spot. Not only keeping Reyes at third, but it keeps Bautista at first. It keeps that double play in order. Nice job by Avila.
Full count, 1 out. Do you start Bautista at first?
You know, you want to stay out of the double play, but with the hot hitting Adam Lind on deck, I would not.
Pickoff at third, and they call him safe. Don Kelly wants a review, and they have called out. And now Bautista alertly moved to second base. Brian Gorman, the third base umpire, called Reyes safe, and Don Kelly, the third baseman, reacted immediately as if he felt like he had tagged him out. Jeff Jones, the pitching coach, is on the phone to the clubhouse to check the replay. Look at Scherzer, he's helping out. Yeah, go for it, call him. And they're going to go to the review.
Get Jose Bautista. Don Kelly's going to replay right now. Jose Bautista says, I'll take that 90 feet.
What a heads-up play by Bautista, boy. He is never out of any situation. He saw the close play at third, and he moved over to second base.
It's a design play right there by Joe Nathan and Don Kelly. They knew right there, as soon as he lifts his leg, Don Kelly breaks for the bag, and the ball clearly beat him. It's just a matter of whether Don Kelly got the glove onto the hand of Jose Reyes before he touched the base.
Now, the important thing to remember is the call on the field is that Reyes is safe. Brian Gorman, the veteran umpire and crew chief, made the call. So Reyes is safe, and the play is under review. On the play, Bautista went from first to second while they were arguing with the third base umpire. I mean, he made a heads-up play. So this is going to have to be definitive, that there's enough evidence on the replay to overturn the call on the field.
We haven't gotten a very good angle yet to determine that.
Brian Gorman is the crew chief. He's on the right. Home plate umpire Tony Randazzo is also on the headset in communication with New York. Another look at it as Kelly goes right to that outside corner of the bag. Boy, I tell you right there, it's difficult to say. You can't tell whether or not Reyes' hand is on the bag yet. Glove has not made contact. Safe. That's the call. Brian Gorman makes the safe call. Reyes is safe at third, but almost more impressively, Bautista's at second.
And we talked about, does Jose Bautista run? Does John Gibbons put Bautista in motion here with a 3-2 count? Well, now it's irrelevant. Now they are out of the double play situation. Just a heads-up play. Don Kelly had this ball in time to get the tag down and get Reyes. It looks like the glove just did not quite make it to the ground, and it just went over top of the hand of Reyes.
Like he didn't get the hand, he may have got the upper arm, but that was too late. So now the infield has to come in with Encarnacion. It's a full count and 1 out. A run in this inning. Popped out of play.
Nathan came back with the fastball right there after that delay, tried to sneak that fastball by him. With the infield in, I would anticipate the fastball being inside here, trying to jam Edwin, not letting him get those arms extended. Get a fly ball out to that outfield to drive the run in. That or one of his breaking pitches, the curveball or slider, going for the strikeout down in the dirt.
Check swing, the appeal to Jim Wolf. No swing, says Wolf down at first. Second walk of the inning. That'll bring Adam Lind to the plate with the bases loaded. And Brad Ausmus out to make a change. He makes the call for the left-hander. He will go to the bullpen. Left-hander Ian Kroll will come in, taking over for Joe Nathan. The Blue Jays have taken a 1-0 lead. Bases loaded. 1 out. Adam Lind, the scheduled batter. New pitcher into the ballgame is the left-hander Ian Kroll, making his 28th appearance. Left-handers hit .222, right-handers .282, which is significant. Lind was the scheduled batter, but now it's going to be the pinch hitter Kevin Pillar. So Pillar will come to the plate with the bases loaded, a run in, and just 1 out. Pillar hitting for the DH Adam Lind, and not Steve Tollison. Tollison's going to be needed to play defense in what is a 1-run game right now. So Lind is out, giving way to the right-handed hitting Kevin Pillar. Bases loaded. Reyes, Bautista, Encarnacion from third to first.
Ian Kroll's only walked 4 batters in his 19 1/3 innings, and he doesn't have to put anywhere to put Kevin Pillar. So Kevin Pillar can go up hacking right here, looking in the strike zone.
Pillar is 0 for 2 as a pinch hitter so far this season. Kevin Seitzer has talked to Pilar about just looking for the fastball. That has led to the improved average over his last 14 games.
Yeah, he was in a little trouble chasing some off-speed pitches away. He was striking out on some off-speed pitches out of the strike zone. Look back in the strike zone. Look for the fastball.
Hits it into center field. This is deep enough to score. Reyes. Bautista tagging as well at second. Reyes comes in. Bautista goes to third. Good job by Kevin Pilar, the rookie, to pick up the second run of the inning.
That's a great piece of hitting by Pilar, too. You talk about looking for the fastball, adjusting to the off speed. If you're gearing up for the fastball, you can adjust. Kevin Seitzer, he's sitting there watching this pitch, and right away when that ball's hit, he's saying get out there. He knows it's deep enough. Successful at bat for Kevin Pilar, driving in a huge second run.
They gave him a big attaboy when he saw that ball deep to center field. Reyes scores easily. Kevin Pilar delivers. That's his first RBI of the season. New pitcher into the game when we come back. 2-0 Jays. Provided us with a prediction of who they thought the Blue Jays player of the game would be. The video game version, Brett Lawrie. They expected that he would have 2 hits and 4 at-bats, a triple, drive in a run, and score a run so far tonight. Brett Lawrie has gone 0 for 3. The simulation is powered by MLB 14 The Show, available in stores now only on PlayStation. Now Albuquerque into the game, throws a first pitch down to Brett Lawrie.
Albuquerque's a slider throwing machine. 29 strikeouts in his 23 2/3 innings of work, holding opponents to a .216 average. He will throw about 70% sliders. Brett Lawrie should just go up, sitting on the slider here, and try to get one in the zone.
There's a slider that backed up, stayed on the inner half.
Sometimes that backup slider is the best pitch in baseball. Brett Lawrie right there waiting for that ball to break, and it backs up and stays on the inner part of the plate. It actually fools a hitter, even though it was not a very good pitch.
Down in the dirt. Albuquerque signed originally with the Cubs. He was traded from Chicago to Colorado in July of 2009. Signed here with the Tigers in 2010 as a free agent. Had a great year in 2011, went 6-1 with a 1.87 ERA. Lawrie drives this one deep to right. Hunter's not going to get it. Home run! Brett Lawrie, a 3-run homer. He stays on that breaking ball, and Lawrie hits his 9th of the season. PlayStation was right after all. Home run number 9, a 3-run homer. He now has driven in 34 runs.
Brett Lawrie got the slider. We talked about the sliders from Albuquerque, and it hung. It stayed out over the plate. Lawrie didn't try to do too much with it. He stayed on it, just trying to drive this ball the other way. He's got some thunder in his bat, And he drove that ball just up over the railing in right center field.
A 5-run ninth inning. Juan Francisco. Brett Lawrie delivers a big hit here in the ninth. He's now 7 for 13 in his career with the bases loaded. Francisco hits it to second. Kinsler throws him out. But the Blue Jays send 8 men to the plate, score 5 runs, capped off by a 3-run home run from the bat of Brett Lawrie. His 9th of the season, 5-0 Jays. And West, it is connected with Brendan Dunlop and Jamie Thomas. And then more baseball on Pacific. The White Sox are out in L.A. to take on the Dodgers. Yasiel Puig just named the National League Player of the Month. You'll get to see him right after this ball game. Right now, you get to see Steve Delabar coming in to work at the bottom of the ninth.
Steve Delabar, fastball, split slider. 197 opponent's batting average, doing a nice job. He's recorded 11 strikeouts in his last 9 in the third inning. Steve Delabar has to work ahead of the zone. His struggles of late have been coming in and not working ahead. He's talked about it. He just has to make sure he has that release point out of the bullpen. It's something he's really focusing on right now. Real good time to start it right here.
Steve Tollison comes into the ball game at second base defensively. With that, Brett Lawrie moves to third. Juan Francisco is out of the game. Top of the order for the Tigers. Delabar delivers a first pitch strike. The Blue Jays put their newfangled offense on display in the ninth. A leadoff walk, a stolen base, an opposite field base hit, a sacrifice fly, an RBI single, and oh, by the way, a 3-run homer.
They finally got that home run they were after tonight. It just was not off Anibal Sanchez.
A little bit of everything in that inning led to 5 runs. Strike 2.
And that's what they've been doing. During this hot streak, they've been known as a slugging team with all the home runs they've hit, but we've seen a lot of different ways that they're scoring now, becoming a very exciting offense.
Kudos to Anthony Gose for the leadoff walk. Off-speed pitch pulled foul. Gose had a leadoff walk, stole second, went to third on the hit by Reyes, and then Brett Lawrie put the capper on the inning with an opposite field 3-run home run.
What a good piece of hitting sitting on that slider. You know it's coming 3/4 of the time from Albuquerque, and he hung it. Lawrie did not miss it.
Full count. Casey Jansen was up throwing in the bullpen, and when the Lawrie home run went over the fence, Steve Delabar got the call. Kinsler is 0 for 3 in this ball game. Tigers have been held to just 3 hits. Leadoff walk. Man on, nobody out. Now for a preview of what's coming up next on Connected. Here's Brendan Dunlop and Jamie Thomas. Thank you, fellas, and that's coming up right after this ball game. Lots of great news from the French Open and a preview of the Stanley Cup Finals. Torrey Hunter shows bunt, takes a ball.
Well, Torrey Hunter knows his team needs base runners right now. He may catch Brett Lawrie playing a little deep. Try to drop one down.
Line drive to right. Bautista retreats quickly to make the catch. Let's go back and look at the Brett Lawrie at bat against Albuquerque.
And again, Brett Lawrie going up. Kevin Seitzer has informed him about the sliders that he throws. Again, not trying to do too much, and that's the key to this at bat for Brett Lawrie, getting to 2 strikes. And Albuquerque made the mistake and left that ball out over the plate. He just tried to drive that to the right center gap, and it just had enough giddy up to get over that railing in right center field.
3-run home run gives Lawrie 34 RBIs on the season. It puts him in the 3rd spot behind Encarnacion, Bautista, and now Lawrie. Miguel Cabrera was shut down by Drew Hutchison. He was 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts against Hutchison. Drew Hutchison retired the final 11 men he faced in this game tonight.
These are the struggles I was talking about with Steve Delabar right here. He comes into a 5-0 ball game, walks the leadoff batter, and now he's not even close with these first 2 pitches to Miguel Cabrera. You have to come in this situation and be a strike throwing machine. They can't tie a game with 1 swing of the bat right now.
Reno. Pete Walker reluctantly going to the telephone. Have a chance to have an easy night for the bullpen. A 4-pitch walk, 2 aboard, 1 out. Dustin McGowan is the pitcher of record for the Blue Jays. He's in line for the win. He had a perfect 8th inning, retired the side in order, and struck out a batter. Casey Jansen has already gotten loose. McGowan with a 2-2 record did a terrific job. He retired Austin Jackson, Alex Avila, and Andrew Romine in order. Now Jansen's got to crank it up again. Victor Martinez 2 for 3. That last conversation is, tell me when he's ready.
Yeah, I don't think Pete Walker's going to have a whole lot of patience right here. He knows this offense very well, and they're in the meat of the order right now.
This has been a surprising start to the season for the Blue Jays bullpen, considered to be a strength coming into the season.
Yeah, their ERA is right down there at the bottom of the American League at 4.69. And that's the biggest thing, as it comes into the season as something you expect to be tops.
The Blue Jays have averaged 4.04 walks per 9 innings out of their bullpen. Laurie's trying to get some directions on defense from Louis Rivera. Ball and a strike, 1 out. Strike 2. As we have seen all night tonight, you are not out of the woods when you get strike 2 on Victor Martinez. 2 of his hits tonight have come on 2-strike pitches.
Seems to get tougher with 2 strikes. You really have to make your pitch, but again, in this situation, you can't be too fine, you can't be too cute. Go after him, try to get a ground ball.
You got the ground ball, but it's foul. The Blue Jays have 8 shutouts this year. They are 8-1 in shutout games. They've had 5 shutouts on the road, pitched 5 shutouts away from Rogers Center. This would be number 6. 2-2.
Rogers Center's a tough place to pitch. The ball does travel. It leaves the yard, but the artificial turf, too. How many times we've seen ground balls get through that otherwise would not have on grass surfaces.
Cut out and missed. Martinez strikes out. 2 down.
That was very uncharacteristic of Victor Martinez with 2 strikes, chasing this pitch down and in from Delabar. Not seen that too much for Victor Martinez this season.
His 14th strikeout of the season. Victor Martinez, 14 strikeouts in 204 at-bats.
He just does not strike out, especially in this situation. He's got Delabar on the ropes, knowing that he's scuffling to find the strike zone.
J.D. Martinez. Two and 0.
Not getting the call right there. Went first pitch slider. Came back with a fastball. Appeared to catch the bottom of the zone, but Tony Randazzo did not think so.
Popped out of play. Delabar has now thrown 23 pitches in this inning. Drew Hutchison went 7 innings, shut out the Tigers on 3 hits, didn't walk a batter, and struck out 7. Dustin McGowan had a perfect inning of relief. He's in line for the win. Deep drive to left field, and this ball is gone. A 3-run home run by J.D. Martinez, his 3rd of the season, and it's a 2-run game. Three-run home run for the Tigers left fielder J.D. Martinez. Both walks coming in to score.
Well, you see Delabar misses his location by a long ways. Deano Navarro won that ball down and away, and it's up and in. He's just not able to command the fastball tonight. And those have been his struggles of late.
Delabar is out. Casey Jansen is in. He'll face Don Kelly when we come back. There's a save on the line. He's 8 for 9 so far this season.
Casey Jansen's been very good since he got back, and since the start of the 2013 season, he's converted 42 of his 45. Second highest rate in the American League behind Holland from the Royals.
Don Kelly takes a first pitch strike. Kelly went for 3 so far tonight. Strike 2. Steve Delabar gave up a 3-run home run after walking 2 in the inning. Casey Jansen, a 3-pitch save, and the Blue Jays win it. The Blue Jays with 5 runs in the top of the 9th. Anthony Ghost keyed it. Brent Laurie capped it off.
Well, Drew Hutchison started it out tonight, and what a nice return. They're getting the extra couple of days, but regained the Drew Hutchison form. He was very good tonight. No walks, 7 strikeouts in his 7 shutout innings to lead the way for the Blue Jays.
Blue Jays win the first of 3 here in Detroit. Stay tuned. Connected on 3 channels. More baseball coming up on Pacific. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night. The Blue Jays win 5-3. Here's Connected